Hello everyone, Venextron here. Now originally I planned to do a more extensive video covering all the different details and news that came from the Destiny 2 beta. However, seeing how time has passed and various other channels have done a much better job of that than me, I am instead going to do a video explaining my different opinions on these aspects. Starting off with the Homecoming story mission. Now there's only one thing that really bothered and upset me about this mission, and that was the very beginning cutscene with our Guardian flying towards the city. And that was the lack of dialogue. Well, there was no dialogue. At the time, I wasn't too worried. I thought that it may have just been for the beta, seeing how the character customization was randomized when you made a character, so, you know, they could have cut it out. However, Luke Smith just said in a recent article that there will be no dialogue from our Guardian at all in the game. So whoever was the voice actor for our Guardians in D1, unfortunately they are out of a job. I will be touching on Guardian dialogue later. Moving forward, the other thing that I was a bit worried about was the potential for the enemies being very, very, very bullet spongy. But I found two reasons for this, and I think they do make sense. I think that something that hasn't been touched on is I do think it's a possibility that Bungie has increased the emphasis and need for getting headshots and having accuracy, because in the first run through of the story mission I was using a hand cannon and it didn't seem like I was doing too much damage when I hit body shots. But as soon as I took my time and I started hitting the headshots, I definitely saw a damage increase. So that might partially be why, from previous gameplay from other people, it looked like the enemies were really bullet spongy. Also, later on during that same mission when I died, I did see that the enemies were a higher level than we were. So, you know, that's probably the reason why they did seem a bit over the top with health, just from my own perspective. Moving forward though, I really liked the aesthetic of the mission. There's been a lot of talk. It's kind of starting to die down now, but especially after the convention, I can't remember what it was called, the big reveal, when they first showed off the gameplay, a lot of talk about Destiny 1.5, how it looks the exact same. It's the same art style, the same, you know, general design. And it's the same engine, if not improved. But anyone that's actually taken the time now to go through this beta and have a proper look cannot deny that it does look better. The lighting looks better, the effects look better, everything pretty much looks better. I have seen though, in regards to the PlayStation 4 Pro, that there are still some things that, different little tiny barely noticeable graphical effects that, you know, aren't perfect, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. Moving on, something else that I rather enjoyed and was a bit relieved about was the length of the mission itself. From the big reveal, I don't even know what to call it, they showed a kind of shortened down version, and I was a bit afraid that this would be the length of the actual mission. And I'm not saying it was short, but we got the full mission in the beta, and I do think it was a good length. So I was relieved about that and very happy. There's nothing really that I can say about the mission, apart from the fact that something nobody really seemed to look at was, for those of you who have played Destiny 1, in the tower, the area where the kind of the jukebox, I don't know if that's exactly what it is, but you know, the thing that plays the music for people. You can actually hear that. It's like half destroyed, but you can hear it anyway. It's pretty depressing, alright. And I'm pretty sure people have found the purple ball. But that's, you know, I just kind of appreciated those little Easter eggs. Also, something I will say is, I'm not too sure exactly at what point of the mission. It was sometime in the beginning. You see 3 of the faction flags beside each other. Or 4, yeah, I guess I think it included the Vanguard flag. And I really appreciated how each faction had their own unique design on the flag, like in terms of the shapes and stuff like that. But that's pretty much it for the mission. I thought the cutscenes were well done. The only thing I was a bit kind of skeptical about was how the lack of any real defiance at the end. Our Guardian just kind of looking up at him and being like, okay, you can kick me off now. But no, I think the mission was very good, and I would probably give that a 4 out of 5, only because there was no voice acting for the Guardian. The next thing that we were able to play was the Inverted Spire Strike, and you'll see some gameplay of that now. I don't think anybody's really complained before about a strike being too long. The only one I can, I think there are some that I can think about maybe, but I won't say it because I'm sure there are people that will disagree with me. But I kind of felt like in a way the strike was too long. Not in a bad way though. I just felt in terms, because, you know, we are going to be playing these strikes a lot over and over and over again, especially if they introduce strike exclusive loot, which I'm sure they will. So in terms of playing it over and over again, I quickly grew bored of it just because of the length and all. It was fun, but I wouldn't want to play it 10 times in a row trying to grind for something. I think that would get old for anything, but especially the fact that it was the length that it was. But no, apart from the length, which is just a minor gripe from me, the strike was very good. Again, I did experience a little bit of the bullet sponge problem from enemies, and they were the same level, so I can't really add that to any defense. But again, if you focus on landing your headshots, everything should be fine. The boss fight itself, I don't know, people are giving out about how it's a bullet sponge and it's, you know, no mechanics. Listen, I think from Destiny 1, I think it's a brilliant improvement, and I think if it's anything close to the rest of the strikes, I think we're in for a treat. I mean, it's unique. I mean, how many strike bosses have we had where they just kind of stand there or walk around and you shoot them until they die? Most of them. This boss, at least, it adds its own unique flavor. It has its own personality. There's not going to be any boss, well, hopefully there won't be any more bosses that are kind of rehashing that same unique aspect. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. Especially, I really enjoyed how after each phase it grew more difficult. That's what I found out. That's the way I found it anyway. Apart from the strike, we had 2 multiplayer modes and maps. We had the quick play playlist, which included the control mode and the Endless Veil map. Control, it wasn't fun for me at first, simply because it was so different to Destiny 1. That's the way I found it anyway. But it definitely grew on me once I took the time to kind of ease into it. Only thing I will say, I mean, multiplayer in general in Destiny 2 has its problems. I don't care about them though, because we've seen, just take a look at Destiny 1's history, we've had so many different eras of the Crucible. And the Crucible is not set in stone. It's always going to be changed. Damage numbers can be changed. Cooldown timers can be changed. I'm pretty sure they've already been changed even when the beta was released, seeing how it's a couple months old, the build for the beta. So yeah, no, there were definitely a lot of problems. I experienced those problems, such as the incredibly long timers for the supers. I'm sure there are some people that had problems that I necessarily wouldn't find problems, but you know, I definitely can see the different gripes that people had about the Crucible, but to that I say it's probably gonna get changed for the better. The biggest thing though was 4v4. I was strongly against 4v4. Not 4v4 itself, but the fact that it was across the board. If everything was 4v4 and then we had like a kind of combined arms playlist, whereas 6v6, I would be fine with that as long as it had Rumble as well. But the fact that everything is 4v4, I really didn't like that. And one of the reasons was because I felt that the maps would be empty. It would feel empty running around looking for, you know, 3 other people, you know, and that's saying if like one of them's already dead and trying to respawn. But no, I was happily surprised There was great teamwork, I found. The team stuck together, whether you find that good or bad. Of course, that added the whole aspect of getting team shotted or team shotting, but it felt fast. It felt almost just as fast as a 6v6. So to that, I say well done, Bungie, and I hope the rest of the maps look really good. I'm especially looking forward to the Mercury map. I can't remember what it's called, but I definitely hope it's not survival only. Competitive was good. I really didn't like the idea of countdown at the reveal. I think it has one big problem, and that's reviving. For me, it really didn't seem like anybody revived. Revive people, and well, I don't think myself that it's easy on trials, simply because they added in the revive token, where if you revive someone or you get revived, that token's gone and you can no longer do either of those two things. So I do think that was a bit of an overstatement for people. But I think I found Control much more entertaining anyway than competitive. Simply because I definitely experienced that empty map feeling. Midtown is a gorgeous map, but it's very big for 4v4. And I know people will... I'm sure if you have a proper team and you're being all tactical and you're giving shoutouts and stuff like that, yeah, you're probably going to need that room. But if you're a lone wolf like myself who tends to play by themselves, I don't know. I just felt it felt really big to me, and there were a lot of times where I would be the last one left, and I'd have to go, exploring the map, pretty much trying to find anyone else. But apart from that, I enjoyed it nonetheless, and yes, some of the problems from Control carried over, but like I said a while back, all of that is subject to change. So we've covered everything that was covered in the beta, apart from the farm. I'm not going to go into too much detail on the farm, the new social space, apart from saying I think they did a good job on it. I think the tower is always going to be my favorite social space, from nostalgia, and also it felt bigger. The farm is big. I'm not going to say it's not big. It's bigger than I thought it would be. But no, I'm not going to say anything just yet, simply because when we were given access to it, most of the NPCs were gone. I think Bungie even said that originally they were going to leave chicken NPCs in, but the server load or whatever grew too much, they had to take them out. But no, the farm was good. So, moving on from what was actually in the beta, what do I think of Destiny 2 as it approaches? Well, I think it's in a pretty tricky place. I think we have two different types of people observing this game. We have the people who are extremely looking forward to it. They have a very high opinion of what's to come, and I don't blame them. I honestly don't blame them. I think that there certainly is potential for that. Bungie saying that there's 50 plus cutscenes and so much story that we're going to be sick of all the story that they're going to give us. I can understand that. But at the same time, I also understand the other group, which are very skeptical of the game as it approaches, and I really do see their points. And me, I'm a bit in the middle. There are so many things I could talk about, but I probably shouldn't for time's sake. But I will say these things. Destiny 1 had a problem with its story and its areas, which better not happen in Destiny 2. If this happens in Destiny 2, it's almost a deal breaker for me, and that is cut content. Now, Destiny 1 had a very infamous development period, to say the least, so in a way that explains why we had so much cut content, which was, repackaged and released as DLC. It better not happen in Destiny 2. I don't think it will happen in Destiny 2, as we've seen evidence that they've been working on the DLCs for a long time now. And also Activision did state that there would be a different program for distributing content over the different periods of time that Destiny 2 goes through. Crucible, again, I've said I'm not a fan of 4v4. The only thing that I can see saving 4v4 is the introduction of modes that really, really cater to that player count. I mean, we've seen Countdown I'm okay with it. It's not my favorite mode. We've seen survival, which I can definitely say that does look a bit. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be novel for the first few times, but I can see it getting old. Just saying, that's my own personal opinion, and my opinion can change. Who knows? I might love it. And Control just doesn't feel like Control to me. It really doesn't. I mean, let's be honest, Control was probably the favorite multiplayer playlist. If not that, then Rumble, which they have taken out of the game completely. In introducing all these new modes, they're trying to push solo players to join people and make new friends. I get that. But there are people who just like playing by themselves. I mean, I play Destiny 2 simply because I find it's relaxing. I enjoy it. You know, when I finish school, when I've had a really stressful day, I just sit down. I can just play Crucible. I can play Strikes. That's what I play it for. I could join with people, but I just don't. It's just the way I play. And Bungie has acknowledged that, you know, they are trying to cater for the solo player, but when they say things like this, and then they take away Rumble, I don't know, it kind of contradicts everything, but I'm not going to go too much into that. One thing that I'm hopeful for is the size of our playable areas, Nessus, Titan, IO, and the European Dead Zone. Starting off with the European Dead Zone, this place better be massive. I mean, if they're saying it's twice as large as the largest Destiny 1's player space, which I'm gonna just take a guess and say it was Mars. Mars was pretty big. It didn't feel as big though. It did feel a bit linear at times, you know, following path to one big area, then another path to another big area. It didn't feel as one big area, if you can understand what I mean by that. And I really hope you have a sense of freedom in the European Dead Zone. Like, I want to be able to go into the forests and just kind of do my own thing. I don't want to have to go on like a little dirt trail to get from one area to the next, you know? And Nessus, I don't know, man. I mean, people are making a lot of speculation about how, well, we have 1/3 or quarter or whatever of the map available in the strike, so that must mean everything is going to be this big in total. And that's not including all the cave spaces from the, I can't even remember what they're called now. You know, the lost sectors. There we go. I'm hopeful. I'm not gonna be skeptical, or I'm not gonna be over optimistic about this, but it's something that I feel is really important. We really need a bigger sense of freedom and exploration. Something else that I am I think I'm very worried about is the state of the lore in Destiny 2. I mean, everybody freaked out when they said the Grimoire wouldn't be coming back, and for those of you who don't know, the Grimoire was basically where you went to access the deeper stories of Destiny 1's world. But that wasn't in game. You had to go to Bungie.net, and there you could read and, you know, learn all about the different things that happened. People freaked out when they got rid of the Grimoire, and I get that. I kind of freaked out as well. However, there's a good chance that they're going to provide something else for us. It might be audio recordings, kind of similar to Halo 3 ODST, if anybody's played that and they know what I'm talking about. Or it could just be long lines of text. Honestly, I don't know. But I'm not concerned about being able to access the lore in game. What I'm worried about is the actual lore. We've seen definitely from Luke Smith, not an attitude, but a kind of perspective that I'm not really a big fan of. Taking out the darkness in general, like they're just putting the darkness on the shelf. Like, you can't really do that. I mean, in Destiny 1, all your enemies are called the minions of the darkness. The console, the one who's probably behind Dominus Gall, he's probably a servant of the darkness. You can't have this without the darkness itself. And I could go on a whole rant about the lore, but all I'm going to say is I'm very worried. And I'll probably make a separate video on that. But that's just my thoughts. It was a very rambly video. but I'm bored. I have opinions. I want my opinions to go on the internet. Here we are. So, anyway, if I forget anything, I will most certainly edit it back in. I'm not ashamed to say that. I probably did forget several things. But I do feel anything that I may have forgotten definitely falls into the categories. I think I covered pretty much all the different categories. So those are just my thoughts, and the reason I'm not going into too much detail, and I'm not giving out too much, and I'm not giving too much praise, is because we just don't know enough. There's so much speculation going around, and I think it's healthy. I think the speculation is healthy, getting people's hopes up, not just getting your hopes up, but trying to figure out what's actually going to happen. I think it's healthy, but at the end of the day, we need to just be patient and see. One thing I will say, just before I close this video off, there's a lot of pre-order exclusives going around. We have, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a power weapon. I can't imagine it being just a kinetic or energy weapon, is the Cold Heart Exotic Trace Rifle. And we have that. We have the Kill Tracker Ghost, and we have a fidget spinner. Yes, a fidget spinner. First of all, I'm going to say that I don't think that this is Bungie. I think this is Activision. Activision wants to get as many pre-orders as possible, and they are the publishers. I think this is them. I think Bungie makes the game. Activision is the one that takes care of all that kind of stuff. I don't approve of it. I think it's bad. But what I will say in terms of the pre-order exclusives, in terms of the in-game items, you can get them. I think it's December 5th. I'm not too sure. You will be able to get them. Now, whether December 5th is the DLC release date, I'm not going to say. I don't know. But, the Ghost. My guess, it's not going to have a highlight level. I think it's going to be a novelty, but nobody's going to really use it. I mean, I guess there's going to be infusion, but I don't know. It's not going to be something that's really going to be big, you know? As for the Cold Heart, I don't know. It's a bit messed up, because if you think about it, that's 2 exotics that are locked off to people. If you play on the Xbox and you don't plan on pre-ordering, which there's honestly nothing wrong with that, I don't blame you. I play on my Xbox. I'm playing on the Xbox myself. That's 2 exotics gone. 2 exotics gone. Which is content gone at the end of the day. I mean, if you think about it, if you haven't pre-ordered on an Xbox, you lose a strike, multiplayer map, armor sets, a ship, 2 exotics, and who knows what else coming when the DLCs come. It's bad, but we've been through this before, and it's probably only going to get worse. Anyway, this actually is it now. Thank you everybody for listening to my rant. Please put your own opinions down in the comments below. I think I'm definitely going to have to make a video concerning the lore, the state of the lore in Destiny 2. And my overall verdict, if I could sum everything up, I'm worried. I'm very worried. I see a lot of good. I see an equal amount of bad. I don't think we're going to see a launch as bad as Destiny 1's, but I don't know. I'm afraid. I'm afraid for the state of this game. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say. So anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Take care.